What is up, everybody? I know it has been some time. I'm actually traveling at the moment, but as I was traveling, I finally pulled the trigger on a Canon EOS R. Found a Best Buy close to where I was traveling, and decided to pick one up. So we're going to do a quick open box here. Aside from the camera, they had a promotion right now to where you got the mount adapter for free. So that was pretty awesome. We'll spin it this way too. The mount adapter itself is pretty nice just because this model is pretty straight and pass through. This doesn't have any of the special features as far as like the aperture ring or the drop-in filters. So although the drop-in filters do seem like that would be a pretty nice thing, I'm not sure how much I would actually use that, but comes with a little case. Now I'm interested to see when I open this up how thick it actually is, because you know I have used an MC11 adapter in converting my Canon mount lenses to Sony, but this is really going to be interesting. Man, that is a large mount on the back. The adapter itself is not as big as you would think. These caps, however, are ginormous. So that is one thing there. So the adapter itself feels pretty solid. I mean, it's simple. You know, it's obviously made out of material similar to that of the lenses, but it does feel a little plasticky. It is metal mount though, so we're gonna put it in here and consider it a win, just because it was free, right? So you can't really beat free. Let's move this off to the side. I am gonna be selling some stuff on eBay when I get back, just to fund this thing. But here we go. So what I got myself is the Canon EOS R. We're going to move that all around because I've got several camera angles going right now. I got myself the Canon EOS R kit here that comes with the 24-105, so we're going to crack this open. Inside the box, it is pretty standard. Your instructions no one will use. It does come with a USB-C cable, USB-C to USB-C, or USB 3.1 to 3.1, so that is pretty awesome. My guess is it's only for this charging block, which it appears it is. However, though, oh, it does have, here we go, it does have prongs on the back, so you don't have to rely on the charging cable to charge the battery itself. So we've got, move this out of the way, we've got this guy here, and that is pretty nice because not only does it show the power indicator, but it is pretty standard as far as plugging into the wall. Now, the one caveat to that I do like when a camera can have its charging block by USB is because sometimes when this is extended, it has a hard time, or you may not be able to have an outlet where this will plug in as easily. So there's that. LPE6N battery, so we've got that, again, standard. I'm gonna move this box a little bit out of the way. The box was pretty large, but again, full frame camera, full frame lens. Purchased an extra LPE6N battery, so not cheap. I think that ran another $65 when it was all said and done. So this experimental purchase of a camera I may or may not keep is adding up. We've got our standard strap that will never be used. You can just have that sail away because it's gone. What is this? So this is interesting. I'm wondering what this is as I pull the plastic off. It is a pouch. It is a lens pouch. It is probably the nicest, cheapest lens pouch I've ever come across. It is almost like a suede or a microfiber. So yeah, decent, not ever to be used, but it's there. I will now put it back in its plastic bag, again, because it shall never be used. It will go into the box like the strap, and it will appear in brand new condition for whoever buys this camera when it is done, or when I am done with its time here. Okay, moving right along. strap on. We have a lens hood, pedal style. Now, one thing on this one that I think I'm gonna have to see here is, oh, it's similar to the Sony. So if you can see, and let me put it on this camera here, it does have this button here, right there, and so that is, I can never tell if that's a good or a bad thing. I do like that it's on the 24-105 because on the Sony 24-105 it does not have any sort of key or button to depress in order to keep it on there. So there are times that I have rotated that and it has come off. We will crack open the lens next. In this test too, I'm going to throw in some pictures I'm going to take real quick here. I am using my Sony setup, and again, forgive the hotel room curtains here, but the Feel World monitor is killing the image quality right now. That's the 7-inch, and then I also have the small HD, which I think I may be returning. The reason I think I'm returning the small HD monitor is just because it has a 720p display, which you may not think you notice a difference, but looking at this Feel World monitor, holy cow. So when I got the small HD monitor, the reason I went that route was because of the fact that it had some better convenience features. The mount itself was more substantial, and it locked in place every time. There was no swivel to it whatsoever, so it was awesome. Now, the one thing that I also liked is that the screen itself, you had a memory card so you can load in some LUTs, memory card space so you can load in some LUTs, and also it auto-rotated. So if you were to go inverted, like Top Gun, the screen itself would auto-rotate. Now, moving right along, holy cow. So I have been going into the stores for some time to really look at this. I don't really like to buy things unless I know for sure I'm going to use them. The reason I ended up doing this, even though the 4K video on the EOS R is pretty much crap unless I start buying a bunch of EFS lenses, I think this is going to be the system of the future. It's kind of a gamble. It's kind of not. Reason being is the lens lineup. So Canon lenses are going to be epic coming up. They have a 24-70, 70-200, 15-35, a pair of 85-1.2s, and a budget lens, 24-240 or something like that. But all of the L lenses that are there are all image stabilized. And Canon has already come out and said that they actually will, even though it wasn't said to be, they actually will be creating an image stabilized body. So the combination of all those is going to be ridiculous when they work together. So I'm going to try to get in early, slowly sell off Sony stuff, slowly get used to the ecosystem, and then once that glass is out, which I think will be timed with a pro body, it's going to be go time. And at that point, if I'm shooting anything like this where I have a secondary camera and the 4K crops in, it's not going to be bad. You can manipulate the crop. You can figure out your distance. You can figure out your focal length, and it won't be that bad. Or, you know, I just buy a $400 EFS lens, and no one knows any better. So, getting back to what we're here for, this lens, it has some weight to it. It's good glass. It feels about the same weight as the Sony version. One difference on the Sony 24-105 versus this version is this actually has a locking lever, which is prevalent on the 24-70 G Master. Now, the G Master does tend to trombone if you're not paying attention to it, but my 24-105 from Sony never has. However, when you're using this lens, this feels smoother than the Sony version. So I'm interested to see that. This mount is epic. It is so large that the reason this is going to play very well in the future is that the 70-200 that's coming out, when you get a look at it, it is shorter and squattier than the current 70-200s, and that's a game changer. You know, the Sony lenses are absolutely fantastic, crystal clear glass, but when you take them with you, they take up considerable size and space. So if Canon is going to be at the forefront of this lens technology, it really does change the game. And then if they get a body to catch up or two, it's going to be pretty interesting. They've already changed the game here with the way the lenses are. So not only do you have your zoom ring right here, you have your focus ring, which feels very nice, very fluid, tactile. But up here by your famous red ring, you've got and I don't know if you can hear that click, that is a programmable ring that you can set for a series of things. So as you're operating your camera, you can have your traditional aperture and shutter speed dials on the body, but you could program this ring for white balance, you could program it for ISO, you could program it for a multitude of things. Now these are, I believe, on every lens they have out and or coming out. They also sell an adapter that, unlike the adapter I have, and coincidentally this was a big thing I looked into. Let me find that adapter. He gone. It's the same size, but you can actually get one of these adapters that has this control ring on it. So if you wanted to have this control ring, you could get the adapter that has it right here and turn all your legacy EF lenses into essentially a smart lens and program that feature. So that's pretty awesome. The other reason I'm interested in this Canon move is there's still so many cinema cameras out there that are using EF mount, legacy Canon mount. I'm interested to see how those convert over, because as my needs progress, and if I go into that road of cinema camera as an independent camera versus kind of a hybrid shooting situation like I am now with Sony, and don't get me wrong, I absolutely love Sony. They're killing this 4K video right now, but that may better set me up to utilize lenses the correct way. So that's kind of my thought process in going into that. But yeah, so I mean, huge mount on the back side here. I mean, the caps, the rear cap for the back of these lenses is absolutely enormous. Like if I compare that to, say, a cap that fits the Sony, you can get an idea of the size difference just right there. So I mean, again, Sony's come out and said flange distance isn't going to be everything you need to worry about. However, I'm finding it harder and harder to believe that they're not going to bottleneck themselves out with that sensor and that mount size that really, in my eyes, looks like it's meant for APS-C. And the reason I say that is it gives enough room around the sensor that I think that's where they could improve their image stabilization, but they don't really have the room to do it on full frame, where Canon is going to have the room to do it on full frame just because the mounts are so damn big. Element on the front looks superb. I mean, I'm not really going to go too far into the lens here, just because I'm kind of going on a rant about my philosophy, and then we'll get more into that as time goes. But here is the most important part. Now, the body itself, several people have had different opinions on, and my take on it is a very well made body. I think that the body itself is ergonomically the best of the full frame mirrorless offering out now. So that takes into account your Canon, Nikon, and Sony. You know, Fuji is kind of an eclectic camera. As much as I love the tactile functionality, it isn't as efficient as other mirrorless cameras. Panasonic probably is the most user-friendly camera I have, and I am interested when their full frame comes out. However, if we're talking size, it's enormous. Their lenses are large, but again, I think they're going to lead the way in video just because of the way they have sized their body. It's going to have better heat sinks. It's going to have better video capability. But that's enough about that. So going with this camera here, one thing I do love on it is going to be this upper LCD. I've been with the layout, and you know, having the dials here for shutter speed and aperture, super easy. I like that there's a lock key. That would come in handy more often than not. On the Sony cameras, you sometimes have the lock key on your mode dial, so you don't move it, but this lock key actually shuts everything down but the shutter, and I think that is very awesome. On the left-hand side here, this on-off switch that is a whole radial dial, I think that is just an enormous waste of space. you have this whole side of the camera that you now can do nothing with, where it honestly could have been a toggle slider. It could have been traditional and been around the front of the shutter button here. Now I understand, you know, that's pretty flush in a small area, but that is what it is. I do appreciate the grip. The grip on here is very well thought out. My fingers tuck in there real well, and it's got a nice recess up in here under where your index finger is. Now, and you can see by my hands, I do not have small hands by any stretch of the imagination, and this is very comfortable for me. So I'm very excited for this camera as a stills camera, and then any sort of additional vlog type of scenario and or just for time lapse. It's not going to be a primary camera by any stretch, but I think it's going to be a bridge camera for me until the next model of the Canon professional grade camera comes out. On the back here, obviously you've got your screen, which is fantastic. I will have to relearn the keys. Not gonna lie to you, I've been ingrained in Sony now for multiple years. I'm gonna have to break myself out of that mold. So that's gonna be something that's gonna be kind of fun. The EVF and the rear screen that I've used have been exceptional. And then in the coming days, what you're going to see as well is going to be how well this mount works with not just traditional Canon glass, but, you know, with my Sony and my A9, I use an adapted 150 to 600 Sigma Contemporary, which even with this adapted lens, I still get 10 to 15 pretty regularly continuous autofocus. Now, I understand the EOS R does not have anywhere near those numbers. I mean, I think it gets about 4 to 5 shots with continuous autofocus. But what I am excited for is to see just in general how the EOS R with adapter will autofocus with the Sigma lens. So those are things that are going to come. I'm pretty stoked on that note. All in all, I really couldn't be happier that I got this. I think it is, you know, an investment. You sometimes have to bite the bullet on this one, but the way I'm looking at it right now is I'm investing in the future of Canon. I, like an advisor for the stock market, am planning on the futures of this system. I really think this system is going to be the future for a lot of us. The reason I say that is just because of the lens technology that's coming out. Canon is not known for their video technology in their mirrorless, I shouldn't say mirrorless, but in their prosumer and professional photography cameras, with the exception of the 1DX Mark II, but I think this is finally going to force their hand in order for them to keep up. So I'm excited for what's to come. Thanks for watching. Appreciate you hanging here with me, and look forward to more reviews, getting to know me a little better, and a little bit more about what I do in the channel. Thanks for watching.